Hey everybody, it's Melinda here, and welcome to another episode of the Lit Lotus Podcast. I am your host, Melinda Van Kirk. The Lit Lotus Podcast is for all spiritual beings who are seeking alternative solutions for better health. So mind, body, spiritual health. It's a very holistic approach of integrating all of these things, and we talk really all things kind of woo-woo here, spiritual as well as physical. We talk yoga, we talk habit evolution and ways to set up your space for success. So lots of different information on this podcast. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, I am a Reiki master, spiritual lifestyle and health coach, and yoga teacher. I am in Columbus, Ohio, and you can head over to my webpage, litlotus.me, to find out some more information and all the things that I do, the coaching, etc. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, drop me a line. I always love connecting with everyone. You can DM me on Instagram or however you like to connect. Email is great too. All right, so today's podcast, we are talking about exploring the magic and becoming the creator of your reality. So this came to me, I don't know, earlier this week. I was listening to something and they were talking about the magic, and I thought, what a wonderful way to put it. So when we move into our high vibration, we really are igniting the magic, or we are feeling inspired, and we're moving from this very authentic, genuine, excited, grateful, hopeful, joyful place within us. And so if you go back to some of my previous podcasts, especially recently, I've been talking a lot about how to raise your vibration. That's just sort of the woo-woo way of saying like how to bring up your joy, bring in your happiness, and bring it into every moment and as you move throughout your day. And I started thinking about the days that I'm really feeling my highest vibration. And I'm like, this is magical. This is where I want to be if I could every day, which may, it's a work in progress. Not every day is going to be as magical as the next, but continuing again and again and again to bring in that feeling of joy and gratefulness and just having excitement for the day or excitement for what you're doing. And I started thinking about, when did this idea of magic get lost in our world? And I was reflecting back on my own life, and I was like, wow, as a kid, I was all about magic. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I absolutely loved books with dragons in it, always drawn to dragons. I just thought they were the most amazing, wonderful creatures to ever exist, or at least in my mind they existed. I loved fairies. I loved anything that was like kids on adventures with unicorns and Pegasus and all the things. Total fairy tale, fantasy. It was just magical. And you felt, when you read books like that or watched movies like that, you felt like you were in this space, this magical, beautiful place that was different than where you were at. And you really believed it. Like you felt like all things were possible. At least I did. I should say I believed it. I felt like all of this was possible and that these things really did exist in some time and space and dimension. Maybe it wasn't the one I was living in, but I really felt in my heart that this was true. And this, especially in my younger years, I'd say before age 7 or 8, before, right around second grade, there's a developmental stage as well around this age 8 where things start to shift, right? But really up until age 7, you are just totally open and willing to just accept things. And, there was just sense of excitement and curiosity that you had at those younger ages. And not that it just went away instantly, but things definitely started to shift around age 8, where all of a sudden you start either, maybe you get more into sports or you become much more into your physical reality, your 3D reality around you. And so it's funny because I was thinking about how much I loved these magical stories, and I did love them and continued to love them really up through 6th grade, I would say. I loved C.S. Lewis books. There was a couple other authors that I just love these ideas of just fantasy, but they definitely started to fizzle out, right? So the older I got, the less it seemed like it was real. It was just fun. And then by 6th, 7th grade, I really started to phase out. And, that's the age where we really start to get concerned about what we're wearing and who we're hanging out with and all these ideas of popularity, and then hormones start going. So it was boys and hanging out with the right crowd and, wanting to fit in, maybe never feeling like I was going to fit in. But I started reading books like Sweet Valley High and they had like a modern day Nancy Drew back in the 80s and 90s. It was like the Nancy Drew Files. And I would read those. And like, I wanted to fit into this idea of where we were supposed to be, this quote unquote reality. So the reality shifted from like being okay to play with dolls and believe in fantasy and dragons and unicorns and all these things to all of a sudden, you're not supposed to believe in those things or like them anymore. So you set them aside and you read what everyone else is reading and you try to dress like everybody else. And it's, we've all been through middle school. It's a very awkward phase for many of us. Not always the nicest or most comfortable phase either. And then I moved into this rebellious stage in high school about sophomore year. And just, I started listening to darker music and the Doors. And, there's a lot of mental health things that started around that time. But even as I came out of some of that depression that I had at 15 into like ages 17 and 18, I'd love to read books that were about rebellion and about like saying F you to the world. And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and On the Road, and those kind of 1950s to early 60s books that were kind of the segue to the hippie culture of the 60s. And I was all about being rebellious, and it was the grunge era. So I was way into grunge and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Soundgarden and all these Seattle bands, right? And I was going to move across the country and live this life of this like rebel. And I did actually go to University of Colorado for a year, which was the most amazing experience, one of the most amazing experiences of my life, quite honestly, and life-changing for the best. But, I had this whole rebellious thing going on, and I'm going to, fuck society, and I don't need any of this kind of attitude, which certainly was not magical. And it wasn't curious either, right? I had these preconceived notions in my head as I got older about who I was supposed to be, what my life was supposed to look like. And a lot of that is being fed to us, right? We're growing up and we're being told you should do this and you should do that. And you have to pick a career path and you have to go to college. And not everyone has the same story. This is my story. And my parents were very supportive of my artistic career. Actually, they wanted me to be a musician, which is funny. Not like a rock band musician, but they loved classical music. And I took piano and violin when I was younger, and as well as French horn and sax. And I went through my series of instruments, right? And they wanted me to kind of fit into that space of like avant-garde musician / artist, and they were good with me being a little bohemian as long as I had a job and could support myself and all that. But we're being fed things not just from our parents, but from other family members, from our friends, from where we grow up culturally, and the neighbors around us, and we're being told we have to live our lives a very certain way. And so you start to create this life that doesn't have magic in it. You create this life based on things like fear of not making enough money, fear of not having status in society, fear of what everyone else is going to think. The list goes on. And a lot of us experience anxiety or depression and it's so prevalent right now with, people even my kids' age in their 20s into their 30s, but it's like rampant and it is acute. And I honestly believe it is from the fact that we have lost the joy, and everything is based in fear. All of our news channels are talking about this is happening and this is happening, and we're afraid of it. We're afraid of it. We're afraid of it, right? We're afraid of school shootings. We're afraid of the violence in the world. And it's a very real thing in terms of in our reality. But, if we didn't have these global news outlets, we wouldn't understand or see what's happening in the world. Even if we read about it in a newspaper, we wouldn't have photos. We wouldn't, that didn't used to be a thing. And so it just, fear begets fear and more fear, and it creates more violence. And it's this vicious cycle. And when you're in this space, no wonder we have so much anxiety and depression and other disorders happening with people. It's because we're not bringing in the joy and the magic to our lives anymore. So I digress a little bit, but as I have gotten older and older, and I'm learning more and understanding more, and I just turned 48, and it's like, okay, I'm coming close to 50, which, by the way, is my Chiron return at age 50, and so I'm going to start, according to my human design, I'm going to really start to step into my wisdom, a wise person role. I'm a 6/3 projector, if you want to look into that in human design. But I'm starting to see more and more clearly all the things that I've been fed over the years that simply aren't true. And in human design, this is like a deconditioning process. So it's something I've been going through on my own. But as I'm reaching closer to this point of 50, I'm just now starting to realize that the magic that I loved and held so dear in my heart at age 6 has just left my life for so long. And so I'm really trying to bring in this idea of magic, this curiosity, this joy and exploration into my daily life, into my everyday mundane, which seems mundane, right? But we're really, what's the word? We see miracles every day, and we don't recognize them as miracles. We get used to it. We take it for granted. It's just like if you've ever had a relationship where you have really just, really liked someone or even loved them, and you just kind of get complacent in your relationship, and then all of a sudden the person breaks up with you or starts dating someone else, and you're so confused why. Because we didn't put in the energy and continue to bring in the love and the joy and the magic to that relationship, right? So it's the same idea, just in our day-to-day lives. We have computers. I'm talking to you on a microphone right now, into my phone. Like, this is a kind of a miracle. The sun rises every day and sets every day, and I have this beautiful greenery outside. Like, this is a miracle. We are on this three-dimensional planet where really everything is insanely beautiful and a miracle, and we forget because we've lost that magic. We've lost that curiosity. We're stuck in what we quote-unquote call reality, which most of the time doesn't have to be our reality. We're so influenced by all the thoughts around us, by the stories we're being told, the things we think we're supposed to do, that we've created this reality of fear, of scarcity, of lack, of isolation. And that doesn't have to be the case. And so when we bring this idea of magic back into our lives and back into our hearts, we really can start to feel the gratitude for everything around us. We can start to see the miracles in everyday moments. And we start to step into this shifted perspective and mindset. Because you are the attractor, the inviter, and the creator of your experience. And I don't know about you, but I decided this week that I want my experience to be magical. I want my everyday experience to be magical. And sometimes I forget as I go through the day. And when I have those moments where I forget, I just stop and breathe. And I set an intention and I become present once again. And it's that single moment of presence, of a deep breath, of a pause that allows me to begin to refresh my mindset to one of curiosity. I begin to change my frequency and my vibration to match whatever it is that I want to attract. Because we are creating our world. So why not create a world of magic, of excitement? And the word joy has been coming up for me again and again and again. So why not have a life of joy? Why not? I can create it. It all starts within me. And when I start pointing at other things around me, this is why I can't have joy, this is why I'm not happy, and I'm pointing and pointing and pointing, I really need to turn that finger right around on myself and say, what am I experiencing? What am I doing to contribute to this situation? I'm allowing it to happen. Now, if you're a child and you have restrictions, that's very different. But we have free will. We are humans, and unless you're in a jail cell somewhere where you don't have those freedoms, which you can still have freedom, and I know I've said this before, but you can choose to create the life you want and become curious. And you start with getting curious around the resistance. So when we start pointing fingers like, I'm not happy because my spouse did this today. All right, so we're immediately placing our happiness in the hands of another person, something outside of us, something external. Instead of just saying, look, that's their issue. And it's not that you don't hear them out and you talk to them or whatever, but that is not me. So when my spouse gets upset or frustrated with me, gosh, I used to just internalize all that. I thought I was a bad person. It made me feel less worthy. It made me crumble inside. And I'm beginning to make these like honest changes where like, I don't agree with what you're saying. I know you're frustrated, but this is where I'm coming from, and this is what I experience. And my spouse getting upset about something and frustrated about something is his issue. Now, this is a specific instance. There are times, right? Like, we can all get frustrated. Sometimes I get frustrated. He doesn't, change the toilet paper when he uses the rest of it. It's a little thing, and I can ask for that to be changed, right? But if I'm not doing anything about it, if I'm not asking for that little thing to be changed, then I'm being okay with that experience. And so becoming a little more curious and finding the joy, or just letting things go. Like, how big of a deal is it if the toilet paper doesn't get changed? And I'm just making this up, by the way. This is not true. But like, that's not a big deal, really, right? I could just let it go until he has to use that bathroom again and change the toilet paper, right? I could find another way around it to say it's not okay with me, or I'm not the one to take care of this, right? But I can also just become curious, like, why is that irritating me? Or how interesting that irritates me. What a silly thing to be irritated by. Where's the joy in that moment? It's not there. So I have to start to pivot. I have to start to change my mindset. I have to start breathing and pausing and becoming present once again. And finding my joy and finding the magic in each moment. And maybe there's not magic in changing the roll of toilet paper, okay? But there can be magic in the next moment, the next segment of my day. I can choose to step away from that and say, what do I need to do to shift my mindset? What do I need to do to bring in joy? And if I'm down in frustration, anger even, I'm not going to jump straight to joy, but I talked about this last month, but beginning to make those small, little incremental changes up the emotional scale, coming to a place of maybe just sort of, I don't want to say boredom, but just sort of that place of not really caring one way or another, complacency a little bit, and then shifting that and coming into a space of curiosity. And when we shift from frustration and can move into curiosity, that's that key turning point, because then we become curious and we're like, oh, that's interesting, and become more expansive. In the last podcast, I mentioned there's only expansion and contraction, right? So I want to become into the space of expansion, and that's where the joy and the curiosity bring in the magic. And if I can live my life as a magical being and experience the magical day in and day out, and recognize that, wow, how cool is this that I'm speaking to you on this little tiny microphone and you might hear this around the world. That's magical. I did my yoga practice online today, and I had people joining from Norway all the way to Southern California. That's pretty freaking magical. And I'm creating my reality. I'm creating my schedule. I'm creating my business. And I feel the shift, and there's momentum behind this shift starting to happen. And I'm excited and I'm curious about what that shift is and where it's going to take me. And I don't know the answer yet, but I do know things are going to keep unfolding. There's a very strong pull to me that something's shifting in my business and how I live my day today. And it's exciting. So can you find that curiosity and magic and excitement in your day every single day? And your emotions, they're your guidance system. So they're going to let you know where you're at on the scale. If you're not feeling expansive and your shoulders are rolling forward and you're kind of like crossed arms, you're probably not in a space of a great emotional mindset, right? You're contracted. Your body's physically contracted. Can you spread your arms wide and open through your chest and smile and just check in with yourself, check in with your emotions. And where are you? Can you change that little dial on the radio? Sorry, that's a funny old analogy. If you're my age, you remember turning the dial on the radio, right? Or on the TV, right? To manually turn the dial. But yeah, can you tune that to a different station and find one that's much more uplifting? And we do that throughout the day, and it's a practice every segment of every day to bring in this curiosity and joy. And I promise you, when you start to make these shifts and you come back to it again and again and again and again, and it's just like building any other habit, it's no different. But you're bringing in this joy and finding your intention for this next section of your day. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it. And all of a sudden you'll notice throughout your day, you're like, wow, I feel freaking amazing. I feel so good. I feel like I could do anything in this world. I am on cloud nine. I'm not paying attention to the news and the violence of the world because that's not serving me. I'm not paying attention to everyone else's problems. That doesn't mean you're not a good listener and a good friend, 100%, but you're not letting that impact your vibration. And if it is impacting your vibration, you got to do a little self-preservation there. And you listen to your friend for a little while and you say, I feel you, I hear you, and you step away. You have to. Because you, as your high vibrational self, is where we all want to be. And if you're vibing high, maybe the person you talk to next is going to feel that. And then the next and the next. And it's this ripple effect. And, if we could all feel great every day, there wouldn't be violence in this world. It wouldn't exist. We would feel freaking amazing every single day. And we'd be going around looking at each other just with pure unconditional love and gratitude. And wouldn't that be an amazing space? But we are humans and we still have these strong emotions. And we're learning how to handle them and how to deal with them. And how to give over to something higher than yourself. How do you hand over those emotions to somebody else, something else? Universal energy, maybe you believe in angels, whatever it is you believe in. If you believe in God, you're handing over that stress, that fear, that scarcity mindset to something greater than you. And you trust and know that you are being taken care of in every moment. And that's where the magic comes in. That's where you feel the magic. Is that inspiration, that joy, and that sense of, I don't have to do it all. Because although in this physical space we have separate bodies, we are one collective consciousness. We are all from source energy. And the universe is inside each and every one of us. And if you feel deep down into your heart space, you can even feel it start to swell up with love and gratitude and joy if you tune in and become present to it. And you allow that to expand out. And those are the things that are going to shift you. Those are the things that are going to help you release depression, release anxiety. I promise you. It's not the pills you're taking. And this is not to knock pills if you have a chemical imbalance, but we can do things with our meditation that can help the same way that those pills and medication help. And I promise you that. And I'm not saying that this applies to every single human in this world, right? There are things that might be beyond us, but I'm so excited about these ideas and about the way meditation and becoming present can shift everything in your life. And when you start deliberately creating and you start deliberately changing your frequency, whatever you give your attention to will become the truth. Your focused attention. You ask, and then you become open to receive. You don't ask and say, oh, well, that's probably really not going to happen. Guess what? It's not going to happen if that's what you think. Or if you ask for something so far-fetched that you don't believe it really, it's not going to happen. If I say, oh, I'm going to get $1 million tomorrow, that is not going to happen. But if I say I am open to the frequency of wealth, of receiving money and prosperity from anywhere, expected and unexpected ways, and that could even be finding a nickel on the street, right? But those little cues, oh my gosh, there's a nickel. And then somebody gives you a coffee. Oh my gosh, there's a few dollars worth of something. And then somebody maybe, I don't know, gives you a shirt that they don't want anymore. And you start to see these little tiny ways that you are able to bring in this abundance. All right. And you start to believe. And that's the key. You need to start believing a little bit at a time. We're Kaizening this habit. Kaizen is small, continuous improvements. And I use that in my coaching all the time with my group. How are you going to Kaizen to build this habit? And then the same is true with your intention setting and with tuning into the magic. How are you going to Kaizen this habit? Well, I'm going to ask to see certain things, and it's going to be something so small that I believe it's possible. It can be simple as I'm going to ask to see some signs and ask for a sign. Maybe you want to see feathers. That was my thing for a long time. Or you want to see a certain type of bird or animal. And it has to be something that is believable that you can see. So if you ask to see a zebra and you really don't believe it's going to happen, you might not see the zebra. Now, the zebra can appear in many ways, right? It can be a photo somewhere, it can pop up anywhere on television if you're watching something. It might come into your inbox in a random picture. So there are ways, even if you want to see a zebra, you connect with zebra as your spirit animal. Maybe you see zebra stripes on a person's shirt, right? So you got to start paying attention to those little signs and symbols. But when you start paying attention and you really believe it and you start to see those little things pop up for you, there's the magic right there. There's the magic. And it's so beautiful. And it makes you smile. And it can shift your frequency in that instant. The moment you see a zebra striped shirt, you're going to smile and think to yourself, oh, thanks guides, thanks angels, there's my zebra. And then you start building slowly, a little bit at a time. You're Kaizening the habit. Your slow, continuous improvement is around your belief system. And little by little, the more you open yourself up to curiosity and joy and magic and gratitude and love and all these things, you're going to be creating the life that you want. All right, that's really all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn how you can work with me, please head over to my website, litlotus.me. You can sign up for newsletters there. You'll get updates on my latest workshops. Follow me on Insight Timer, and you can join me every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for a free yoga class. And I love to connect with people there. And feel free to shoot me a message or just send, reply to an email if you'd like, and let me know. Let me know what you think. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. I am now so excited. I came into this podcast feeling a little bit ho-hum. What am I going to talk about? And now I'm feeling inspired and just ready to take on the day. I hope you are too. Sending you so much love, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.